Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Jane Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. If you're joining me on Facebook, good morning. If you're joining me on Twitter, welcome back again. 10 toes down as usual. I just have to ask myself certain questions. I think that sometimes that we forget that it's okay to ask questions, right? It's okay to question things. The entire point of discovery is to question and figure out if you believe something makes sense to you, not to anyone else, just to you. So if it doesn't make sense to anyone else, but it makes sense to you, then that's all that really matters, right? It is with that I wonder aloud, what's the use of the NFL hiring an independent arbitrator, somebody who is trained in looking at all the evidence impartially, and then making a decision that is not only right but fair? Like, why hire that person only to say, I don't like the decision that she made, so I'm going to just appeal it and then put somebody in place that I think will give me the result that I want? Because that's essentially what the NFL did with the Deshaun Watson case, right? They said, we don't like the result from this person that we hired to be independent. It wasn't what we wanted to do. So now we're going to appeal it and ask somebody else to do what we want to do. How is that fair? It brings me to a different question. Why is the NFL still trying to be the law? Why is the NFL trying to exist at a higher level than the law? The laws of the land have looked at this case and said there's not enough to even put a case towards him. And let's be honest about it. Everything that we know he's done, none of that would warrant jail time. None of it. None of that is going to get him thrown in jail. It would only get him like fines, maybe probation. None of what he did amounts to someone that should be in jail. So why is it so important for the National Football League to operate at a higher level than the laws of our land? Not only do I not understand it, I just think it's stupid. Like, you have enough on your table as it is. You don't have to be involved in these other things. You don't have to be the law. You know what the NFL could do? The NFL could say, hey, listen, we're going to take our cue from the law. What they decide, we're going to ride with. If they decided that Deshaun Watson should be in jail, then guess what Deshaun Watson can't do? He can't play football, right? If they decided that Deshaun Watson was going to be on probation, then guess what Deshaun Watson can't do? Can't play football. If we're operating underneath this assumption, that football is going to be judge, jury, and executioner above what the laws of the land are, then we got to ask some more questions. Right? We got to ask some more questions. Why is Robert Kraft not like stripped from his ownership position? Why is he not stripped from his ownership position? This is a man who was caught at the center of a sex trafficking ring. When they busted the house, he was there. When they busted the house, he was there. Water under the bridge. Never really hear about it anymore. Right? Don't even get me started on Daniel Snyder. How is he still on his team? Yet these are the owners that are representing the NFL at the highest level, at the ownership level, and they're allowed to get away with debaucherous behavior tenfold of what this man has done. And nobody says anything. No one's, I mean, don't get me wrong, people are saying things, but the NFL isn't. Like the NFL isn't going to the extreme like they've gone to the extreme with Deshaun Watson. They're not going to the extreme like they've gone to the extreme with Calvin Ridley, since people want to bring Calvin Ridley up. You don't think any of these owners are out here? You don't think any of these owners are out here like making bets on teams? You don't think any of these owners are out here gambling on football? Of course they are, but they're owners, so it doesn't matter, right? Right? I mean, that's what we're saying. Because they have more money, they have a better way of shelling it, they can hide it. We don't hold them accountable the same, right? But it's okay to ask questions. Like, for instance, right? Why does it have to be, if you don't believe these women, you don't believe all women? Why does it have to exist in absolutes? Here's what I'm going to tell you. Full transparency. I believe in women. I don't believe these women. It's just way too many flimsy things that I can identify as being crooked, that I see, that lets me know there's something not right with the stories. There's something not right with the stories. There's something not right with the way in which things are viewed. It's okay for me to say, that's not how I'm getting down. I don't believe them. It's okay. We don't live in a world where you have to choose left or right. You can say, sometimes I'm left, sometimes I'm right. Just because I don't believe that Deshaun Watson committed crimes does not mean that I don't believe that there are athletes out there committing crimes. That's not how this works. Just because I don't believe that Deshaun Watson used his money and influence and whatever to like get over doesn't mean that I don't believe that stars and people with money use that influence and money to get over. I just think in this situation, it's not right. I think in this situation, we've been duped. And I'm not comfortable with us stringing up Deshaun Watson for the sins of the past. Because that's what I feel like sometimes. I feel like sometimes that what we're doing is whatever the most recent situation is, it has to pay for the times where people got over in the past. That's not right. Deshaun Watson is not here to be the sacrificial lamb for all of the guys who got away with something in the past. That's not how this works. That's not how the world works. I would hate it if the world worked that way. You know how many people would be unfairly unfairly criticized or unfairly canceled, unfairly imprisoned, unfairly fired if they had to pay for the sins of the past? We can ask questions. Why does the NFL feel as if they need to go above and beyond what the law of the land? I say this every time. This isn't some new thing for me. Every time the NFL gets involved with punishments that have to do with conduct that has nothing to do with football, I ask those questions. Because on Wall Street, they don't care anything about what those dudes are doing in their personal lives. They just know that when they come on the premises, that's when their behavior better be immaculate. Imagine if we were all judged in our jobs based off stuff we did in our personal lives. How rough would life be if every time we did something that was embarrassing in our personal lives, it cost us our professional job? These things don't even go hand in hand. They don't compute, right? At the end of the day, what we're doing and what we're about is about trying to exist in two worlds. One is our personal life, the other is our professional life. And we should, and a lot of times try to keep both of those lives separate. It's unfortunate for professional athletes. Well, hell, not even for professional athletes. For most athletes, high school, college, professional, it's unfortunate that their personal lives are not able to stay personal. Why? Because they have a professional thing that people love. So because Deshaun Watson is a quarterback in the NFL, he can't have a personal life. And because he can't have a personal life, mistakes or bad missteps that he makes in his personal life get elevated to an entirely different level. That's why we end up in these types of situations where someone is trying to force you into a belief. They're trying to force you into a belief. Remember back with the vaccine stuff in COVID. Well, if you don't get the vaccine, that means that you don't believe that there's COVID, that you don't believe in COVID. Like, no, these things are not mutually exclusive. I got the vaccine because it made sense to me. I get vaccinated for everything else. Why not get vaccinated for this? Right? That was my choice. I don't befault anybody not getting the vaccine because they don't trust the people. But that's for them to decide. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. There's some people who just didn't get the vaccine because they were like, hey, listen, you know what? I'm going to build my immune system up. I'm going to fight this thing the natural way. That doesn't mean that they're like a tinfoil hatter. They don't believe in the vaccine. It just means they made a decision. It doesn't always have to be, you know what I'm saying, one end of the spectrum or the other. Right? There is no rules to how someone is supposed to feel. There's no rules to how someone's supposed to think. And you can't just jump to the conclusion of, oh, well, you don't trust women. You don't believe in women if you don't believe that Deshaun Watson did something. No, that's not how that works. when we have the opportunity to look at things clearly, and when we don't have all the information, which we don't, it's okay to go, let's wait for some more information. When provided with more information, if you still are feeling like, I don't know, this doesn't feel right to me, then guess what? It's probably not right. It's that simple. If you feel like it's not right, it's probably not right. If you feel like it's right, cool. Feel like it's right. I'm not here to tell anybody that says I'm not rocking with Deshaun Watson anymore. And I'm not rocking with people who rock with Deshaun Watson anymore. I can't tell you people that you're wrong. All I would say is, don't you think it's a little harsh to cancel everybody associated with someone just because they don't believe the same thing that you believe? Mike Ryan of the Dan Le Batard show, was supposedly a diehard Cleveland Browns fan. Supposedly, diehard Cleveland Browns fan from Miami. I don't know. But he was a diehard Cleveland Browns fan who said that he was so disgusted by the Browns trading for Deshaun Watson, even though he doesn't know all the information, he wasn't in the rooms, that he was no longer going to be a Browns fan. My response is very simple. Mike Ryan was never really a Browns fan. It's that simple. You gave up your allegiance that you've grown up with since childhood because they signed a player that you didn't like? That is the most flimsiest fandom I've ever seen in the world. Fan is short for fanatic. Clearly, there was no fanatical in that. And I'm supposed to believe he was really a fan? Probably not. Because this, in terms of things, what's worse, right? What Deshaun Watson is accused of doing, or what we know Jim Brown did? What's worse? See, we only assume we know what Deshaun Watson did, but we know what Jim Brown did. Jim Brown, the greatest face in the history of Browns, has multiple, not one, not two, multiple occasions of abuse. Multiple occasions of domestic abuse against women. And yet, Mike Ryan, the Browns fan, was a Browns fan the entire time, even though the greatest face in the history of this team was exactly. So at the end of the day, what are we really doing? I have to ask these questions because apparently nobody else will. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. You do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree. Whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. Like, subscribe to all of my other platforms. Y'all know who you are. Peace.